Welcome to the Sorting Congressional Bills study tutorial. In this video, I am going to explain everything you need to know to do the task. But before that, I would like to explain the motivation and the reason we have designed the system to help us sort congressional bills. As you know, each year there are thousands of bills introduced in US Congress, and it would be really good if we could automatically forward the bills to the appropriate committee, and that is our ultimate goal here. So please keep watching the video until the end. Now let's start with the basics of the system. This is the login page of the system. Please enter your ID here and then choose 3 as the study condition, then click on Start. It'll take approximately 3 minutes for the system to load. Once the system loads, you will see this page. At the top right corner, you can see the timer. You'll have approximately 40 minutes to do the task. Please keep in mind that your time is valuable and you need to do the best you can in the 40 minutes. Now let's get into the actual task, which is sorting the bills. In the right column, you can see some of the bills that were introduced in 2012. The theme column gives you some ideas about what has been discussed in US Congress in 2012 overall. For example, the theme here that has words mortgage, securities, consumer, bank, and exchange tells us that some of the bills in 2012 had something to do with banking, finance, and mortgage. And these bills use these words a lot. Moreover, these are the bills that are highly associated with this theme. Let's look at another example. The next theme that has words metropolitan, carrier, rail, passenger, airport tells us that some of the bills in 2012 had something to do with transportation issues. Those bills use these words a lot, and these are the bills that are highly associated with that theme. Now, how are we going to sort these bills? We are going to sort them by assigning appropriate labels that explain the content of the bills to them. We won't have to assign labels to all of the bills, but to some of them. Then we will use the built-in system that automatically assigns labels to the other bills. So our job here is to assign good and appropriate labels to some of the bills. Now, how are we going to create and choose labels? The topics or themes information are going to help us create and assign labels that explain the content of each bill. Now, let's look at an example. To see the actual content of each bill, we can click on the bill and the new window with the bill content will appear. The top part, which is bolded, has the most information about the content of the bill. After studying the title, if we still can't decide about the label of the bill, we can study the rest. Just keep in mind that your time is valuable and you need to assign high-quality labels to as many documents as you can. After we study the content of the bill, and with the background information of its associate theme, it looks like this is talking about banking and finance. So we will create a label called banking and finance by typing it in this box and applying it to the bill. We can create any label that we want. The allowed labels can include letters, digits, and spaces. No punctuation is allowed. Now moving to the next bill, we can either choose an existing label from the menu, create a new label and assign that to the bill, or if we don't know anything about the bill and we have no idea what the label will be, we can just skip the bill and let the automatic labeler decide on its label. After studying the content of the bill, we will decide that we can reuse the label banking and finance and apply that to the bill. The moment that we choose a label from this menu, that label will be applied to the bill as it's shown at the top part with the label name and its corresponding color. Then we will move to the next bill. We will click on the bill, study the content, and then create a label called mortgage and apply that to the bill. As we are adding and applying labels, we see that the displayed labels will get updated. In each theme, we will see the bills that we have labeled and then the bills that don't have an assigned label. We also see that the system automatically takes us to a bill with a red box around it. This is the bill that the system suggests for us to label. If you don't think you can assign a label to it, you're encouraged to label the next bill in the theme, which is displayed right after the bill with the red box around it. As you see, as we create labels, the labels will appear here with a unique color, and the bills that we have labeled will have the same color. The last document that we label will be highlighted in yellow to help us keep track of the labeled documents. You also see the progress bar here that shows how many themes you've covered. You're encouraged to at least label some documents in each theme. After we assign 10 document labels, the automatic labeler will assign labels to some of the other bills. Those bills will be highlighted in gray. If we click on each one of these bills, on the top, we see the assigned label and the confidence of the system for this label. Now we can either approve the assigned label or manually change the label by either choosing a label from this menu or creating a new label and applying that to the bill like what we did before. Or we can just skip it if we don't have any idea about what the label is. Just keep in mind that if you don't manually approve or assign a label to a document that has been labeled automatically, the label might change later. So if you are sure about the label of the bill that has been automatically labeled, you should manually approve or assign a label to it. Now there are some other things that we can do. We can rename or delete a label. Let's say that we look at the labels and we think that we don't really need label budgeting. We can choose this label and click on delete label. Note that any document that was labeled with budgeting before will no longer have a label. Or let's say we look at the labels and we feel like we don't really want the label to be called nature. We want this label to be called wildlife. We can choose the label, click on rename label, and type in wildlife here, and then click on OK. Now any document that was labeled with nature before will now have labeled wildlife. Now let's say we want to see all the documents that have labeled education. We can click on label education and a new window will appear with all the documents that are labeled with education, including the ones that the automatic labeler has assigned a label to. Now what we can do is that we can study the bills here, and if we think that a label education doesn't make sense, we can delete that label for this document by clicking on delete here. We can navigate through all the bills with the label education by clicking on show next 10 and show previous 10. At any point, if we want to go back to the original view and keep labeling documents from the theme view here, we can close this window and keep labeling the documents from the theme. It's up to you how many bills you want to label, and it's up to you how many labels you want to create. Just keep in mind that a reasonable range for the number of labels you create is somewhere between 20 to 30 labels. If you create too many or too few labels, the quality of assigned labels will be low. Also, you are encouraged to cover as many topics or themes as you can, as indicated by the progress bar here. You will probably end up having 2 or 3 labels for the bills in a theme. You will have a total of 40 minutes to do the task. You can stop earlier if you are already satisfied with the assigned labels. If you decide to stop earlier, don't forget to click on Finish and Submit label at the bottom of the page. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you have a great experience with the system.